Is monogamy better than polygamy? First, let me start by listing the benefits of a monogamous relationship. In a monogamous relationship, you can acquire comfort, which is the reassurance, and you feel less worried about things. You know that your partner is going to be faithful because you have established trust. That's another benefit. You establish trust. You know you can count on that person. You establish security. You know that person will protect you, your wants, your needs, your inspirations, and will support you. Stability. That means that things are not going to change. You don't have to worry about things changing drastically from one feeling to another. It actually keeps on growing. It keeps on developing. And belongingness. Human emotional need to be accepted. It is in our nature to want to be accepted, to feel wanted by another person, to feel like somebody wants us. And that is the benefits that a monogamy relationship gives you. Something that you just can acquire in a polygamy relationship. Now, monogamous relationships last from time to time. It's not like back in the days when you met somebody and that means you were going to marry that person. Now you get to date, you get to meet different types of people until you find a connection with one of them, and that will help you establish a relationship. You feel like, this person has something that I want, and I feel like I could possibly build a family with that person. Then you settle down and you work on things. Because in a monogamous relationship, that is what you're supposed to do. You settle down, you get to know that person, you get to know their weaknesses, their strengths, their likes and dislikes, and you get to accommodate yourself to what they are. And so do they. They get to know you, and it establishes a bond, a special kind of bond that you just can't find in a polygamy relationship. Because, first of all, polygamy relationships don't have trust. There is no way that a third person can trust you or you can trust them because you're in another relationship. There is no comfort. You're not reassured of anything. Maybe you have sexual comfort because they fulfill your needs, but that doesn't mean you have emotional comfort or security or stability. And belongingness, you don't really belong to them. You don't feel like you're wanted or belonged by that person because that person can easily have somebody else too. So you don't have that trust and belongingness. Also, usually when people want to explore the polygamy side of a relationship, is because they were not committed in the first place. To be in a monogamous relationship, you have to be committed because it requires work. It requires a lot of work actually, because it's hard to spend your whole adult life with a single person, and it's hard to keep the excitement and the spark going, which is why people think that, for that relationship to actually keep on going, it's a good idea to bring in a third person or a fourth person into the relationship. And often it's not how it works out. Sometimes you bring a third person into the relationship. At first everything is great, everything starts working out, and then you start losing feelings for your primary partner. You start feeling different. You start feeling like you want to spend less time with them and more time with your second partner, which causes the first relationship to start decaying and eventually it might end. And that is not why you entered the relationship in the first place. You entered because you wanted it to last. You wanted to maybe build a family and get married and work together to have a bright future. And with a third person entering, it distorts the whole plan to say. Also, the difference between infidelity and polygamy is that infidelity, you go behind your partner's back. You don't tell them what you're doing. You're lying to them, which that is even more morally wrong. But it's still polygamy. You're still not being 100% faithful. Even though that person knows that you have another person at the side, and if they agree because they want to do the same thing, then there is no relationship there. There is no point of having one relationship because you're exploring other things around. And if you're not committed, then why are you wasting your time in a or trying to pretend to be in a monogamous relationship when both of the parties know they're not? Now, if one person thinks that they're in a monogamous relationship and the other person feels like they want to have a polygamy relationship and they talk to their primary partner about it, I think that is being selfish, because if their partner does not want that and they keep on pushing the idea into their minds until they eventually agree, that is being very selfish, because you're not taking into consideration what they want. They are taking into consideration what you want. Mostly women want commitment. Women want to feel secure more than men. It goes back to our nature too, because in breeding season, women can only have a baby every 9 months, while males can have babies all year long, which is why women want to feel more secure, want to feel like their partner will be there with them through thick and thin, working together for a family to work out. That's the concept with birds. Birds are usually the ones who are monogamous, and the reason is because they hatch eggs, and hatching eggs requires a lot of work. It requires keeping them warm, bringing them food, building a house, teaching them how to fly. It's a lot of work. So birds think that working together will make the work easier, which is true. If you have a partner that you can count on and work with, things will be easier. Things will be a lot faster, and you don't have to keep on worrying like all the work is on you. You can trust the other person to be there and help you as well. Now, the other thing with polygamy, they argue that it's impossible for one person to fulfill all of your needs. And even though that might be true, but sometimes those needs that need to be fulfilled are highly unrealistic. It is impossible for one person to have everything you want all at once. And if because of that you feel like you have to turn to a third person to fulfill those needs, which by the way is usually a sexual lack of fulfillment, because after a while you feel like the sexual is not the same as it once was, so you want to feel excitement. People call it excitement, and that's why you turn to polygamy. Also, there's nowadays there's a lot of works like therapy, couples therapy, that could be done to prevent people to turn into polygamy or unfaithfulness or cheating. And also we have to take into consideration that monogamy establishes a private domain in a domestic space for the partners. It establishes privilege and happiness and inclusiveness. And there's so many feelings that go into a monogamous relationship that provide happiness and that can be looked at as benefits of a monogamous relationship. Over here in one of my research papers, it says that committed partners are more likely to devaluate or reject alternative partners than are non-committed partners. So it's true, if you enter a relationship being committed, wanting to have a family or wanting to build something, you will not think of alternative ways. But if you're not committed, then that's when polygamy enters. You look at different ways in which you can do what you want and still not be looked at as wrong. But unfortunately, polygamy is still looked at as wrong in many cultures, and especially in, when it comes to religion, it's a sin to have more than one partner. You're supposed to stay with one person and get married and have kids, help them grow, have grandkids. It's what we call the cycle of life. But if that's not what you want, or you're not ready for that, then don't enter a monogamous relationship. It's just date until you feel like you're ready to settle down. And even then, if you're not 100% sure, then there is no point of bringing a person inside and having them suffer because you're not sure of what you want. And if that person is ready to settle down and is ready to give you their love and is expecting the same thing in return, and you're not ready, then don't do it. Don't be selfish and wanted to fulfill your emotional needs and your sexual needs with two different people, because it is not fair to those people. And if the other person agrees that that's what they want, then it's okay to be in a polygamous relationship. But at the same time, that is not a relationship. That there is no commitment. There is just you having an emotional connection with a person, but being fulfilled by other persons on the side. And then that is not what it's supposed to be. That is not the point of it. Another thing that they say here is that the need fulfillment in relationship is possibly related to the psychological well-being. Well, yeah, it's true. If you're not fulfilled in a relationship, you won't be happy. You start putting incentive. You start lacking incentive. In the relationship, and you eventually give up. Well, that's all comes back to commitment. If you're not committed and you don't have communication with your partner, and you tell them that that you're lacking something or you want something more from them, and if they're able to give it to you, then that can work out the relationship, and it does not have to bring in a third person to work out the relationship. Now, if that person can't fulfill your needs, you feel like you talk to them and things don't change, then maybe there could be the possibility of leaving that person or ending things with that person to find your happiness. It is okay to find your happiness, to look for your happiness, but it's not okay to hurt someone else in the process. So that is why monogamous relationships are better than polygamous relationships.